Well, definitely it's always interesting when we tend to do this together, and you do know it's Atlantic TV, Viewpoint it is, and it's an awesome Monday morning, the beginning of an awesome new week. But as much as we're waiting for how the week will look like, it looks as if the political players are indeed setting the stage for what will be before the end of this month. Will rotation continue in all the parties? Will zoning be the key? Or we might likely have a different scenario this year? But anyway, while you ponder that in mind, I want to quickly welcome you to another lovely time on television is Viewpoint. And as always, my name remains Michael Gobadia. You do know it's always interesting not to do this alone. It's always a ritual for me to have my colleague here. And I'm talking of no other person but Patience Monday on a beautiful Monday morning. Patience, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mr. Michael. The beautiful Monday morning to you. And of course, like a smile.
Well, it's going to be like this all through the week.
Of course, it should remain. Well, good morning and welcome to Viewpoint on Atlantic TV. And on Viewpoint, to begin with the daily sound, the dialogue takes center stage. And then the news come around. Do well to connect with us on all our social media platforms of Facebook, YouTube, Instagram at Atlantic Media and TV. We go on the squee break. When we return, the dailies will be next.
Well, yes, the dailies is what will definitely take center stage now. As we X-ray on them, today, 7 it is. We have the Daily Sun. We have no other but the Nigerian Tribune, as much as the Nation, these days, Daily Trust, the Vanguard, and the Punch. And let's see if we start with the Punch. Always a screamer on its front page. And on the Punch this morning, the leading story reads, it's more like getting it real done today. States capital spending plunges to 58% as 2027 politics intensifies. No wonder. Capital projects of after Lagos, Bayelsa, Enugu, others spending dropped by 2.2 trillion naira. The spending cut may worsen poverty, unemployment, economies, and fiscal pressure deepens. Our statistics borrow fresh 362 billion naira. Well, anyway, you can get that very story up on page 2. It looks as if as more as politics is coming, no more governance seems to be in some states. But anyway, I've stated it. Page 2 has a story. Let's see if it takes some more. Drama continues. 2027 Rivers governorship drama as APC committee screens Fubara Wike allies. Anyway, page 2 has more of that story. It's more like comedy. I wonder why they were not in the African Choice Award. Anyway, let's leave that. First holding company seeks shareholders' approval on 1 trillion naira capital base in bold balance sheet fortification. And you can fortify yourself with that story up on page 44. Let's see if we take some other leading stories. Still on the front page of the Punch. Vehicle imports drop 67% in 3 months. No wonder I hardly see Tokumbo these days. But page 38 has more of that story. 3,715 primary healthcare centers inactive in 19 states. And the FCT is a very disturbing story on page 8. INEC deadline, opposition parties rush to submit membership register. And you can register that story up on page 42. Well, the picture of the day is more of deepening security counter-terrorism by bilateral relationship with the United States. Both pictures, you can see no other but the NSA director himself, Nurubadu Shekin Vance, who is the Vice President of the United States, and also the Secretary of State. We're talking of no other person but Marcus Rubio. And you can see him with all smiles. Well, anyway, we just hope this will be beneficial at the end of the day. But that's the much you can take from the Punch.
Let's check out story making it to the headline on the Nigerian Tribune this morning. And on the Nigerian Tribune, the leading story reads, drama as Fubara appears before APC screening panel. Well, it's a more dramatic one on page 22. Still on the front page, First holding company seeks shareholders' approval on 1 trillion naira capital base in bold balance sheet fortification. Well, you can get more of that on page 12. Still on the front page, let's look and take more of the leading story. Tinubu Southwest lawmakers celebrate fast surety at 100. Wow, that's an interesting one on page 5. POS transaction set to hit 8.96 trillion naira in May as CBN intensifies cashless drive. Or you can get more of that on page 13. Jet A1 crisis. Pilot engineers raised alarm over aviation safety in Nigeria. Well, you can get more of that on page 28. NNPCL should stop committing state resources to refineries rehabilitation, says experts. And the riders to follow, NECA expresses concern over new refinery deal. Again, more of that on page 13. And talking health, pathologist warns of rising global legal risks in mishandling surgical tissues. Wow, there's a major one on page 4. Now let's see the picture of the day. We have two major ones there, but I think we'll go with the very first one, talking about the 20th Annual General Meeting of the Transnational Corporation PLC held in Abuja at the weekend. Well, that's what you can take on the Nigeria Tribune this morning.
Daily Sun is where we are running next to. And on the Daily Sun this morning, tension in APC, ADC, NDC, PDP as membership leaves submission ends. Riders to follow zone presidency to South, fasting action on State Police Middle Belt Forum advises. No wonder the Daily Sun is shining very well. Anyway, I'll just tell you to get more of that on page 27. Let's see if we take some other leading stories. Still on the front page of the Daily Sun. Escalating vandalism. Diesel theft threatens 3 trillion naira telecom assets as MTN spends 887 million on security in first quarter of this year. No wonder we're having hitches as it concerns connectivity. But anyway, just connect that story up on page 25. Top banks slash loans by 25% amid rising risks. CBN to examine lending slowdown at MPC meeting. Expert urge softer regulatory rules. And I tell you to roll up that story up on page 3. Let's see if we take some other leading stories. Still on the front page of the Daily Sun. Okay, JAM stakeholders to decide 2026 admission guideline today. It's a screamer on page 20. IPOP holds Biafra Heroes Remembrance Day May 30th. And you can get that on page 20. Gunmen kill police, 14 others, adopt 5 in Plateau community. Is quite a disturbing story on page 4. NDC zeroes in on Obi Kwankwaso ticket as Jonathan pushes to see if he will come back again on page 4. But remember, we're taking a critical look later on these, on our dialogue, because we'll be dialoguing and actually looking at all of it together. But the picture of the day, just like my colleague said on the Nigerian Tribune, well, definitely you'll be looking at the Transcom meeting that was held in Abuja. And anyway, a whole lot of issues arose, and the company seems to be moving ahead. But that's the much you can take from the Daily Sun.
Let's check out stories making rounds on this day newspaper. And on this day, the leading story reads, FT Dangote eyes Kenya for new $70 billion, 650,000 barrel a day refinery. And the riders to follow, NECA with $25 billion unaccounted for NNPC, new MOU unpatriotic, canvasses refineries privatization of all concessionaires. Report, NNPC new MOU carries 2 main risks. Well, you can get more of that on page 5. Still on the front page, Tinubu pays tribute to Fashoranti at 100. Wow. That says he is a statesman, administrator, pro-democracy activist, prominent politician. Appreciate him for his support prior to his emergence as president in 2023. Sanwo-Olu Abiodun Fayemi pay homage. Well, you can get more of that on page 5. Still on the front page, Iran responds to U.S. proposal for ending war. Trump says terms unacceptable. And the riders to follow, Saudi Aramco's first quarter profit jumps 25% to $32.5 billion amid Strait of Hormuz blockade. Tehran says negotiation not sign of surrender. Well, you can get more of that still on page 5. CBN, subnational government key to curtailing inflationary risk. Well, it's a major one on page 6. Let's see if we can take more, still on the front page of this day. Gbenga Olawepo hashing INEC timetable unlawful, unworkable, and insensitive. Wow, it's a screamer on page. It's a screamer on page 33. And the picture of the day, just like every other, is a major one on the front page this morning, talking about the 20th annual general meeting of the Transcorp Group held in Abuja at the weekend. Well, that's much you can take on this day this morning.
Let's see what the nation has for the nation. And on the nation this morning, the leading story read, suspense as Fubara Uzodinma orders await screening results. APC gears up for commencement of primaries Friday. Governor Zulum not in Senate race. Well, people are really commending him for not using his power to seek to be a senator. Well, anyway, I'll just tell you to get up that story up on page 2. But anyway, the suspense continues. But let's see if we take some other leading ones. Still on the front page of the nation this morning. First hold company seeks shareholders' approval of 1 trillion naira capital base in bold balance sheet fortification. It's on page 3. And 70 terrorists killed in Niger drone strike. And indeed, that sharing story you can get on page 3. Let's see if we take some other leading stories. Still on the front page of the nation this morning. Well, it's more like advertisements. And, well, anyway, it's one great term, deserve another. And you can see the achievements being reeled out right there on the front page of the nation. And we're talking about not my achievement, that of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And, well, anyway, okay, subsidy removal. Anyway, it's right there. Just read up the nation and you get all of that. But the picture of the day, it's more of a double header, but I'd rather take the leading one, which is that of no other person but Nuru Badu shaking J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, and also the Foreign Secretary, or the Secretary of State, you can call him. And we're talking about Marcos Rubio. And all of that played out during the weekend, all about deepening security and counterterrorism and bilateral relations with the United States of America. That's what you can take from the nation.
I trust you're having a good time this morning as we look at the stories making it to the headline on Daily Trust this morning. And on the Daily Trust, the leading story reads, allocation triple and hardship widens across states. Well, it's an interesting one on page 3 and 4. Still on the front page, Sokoto 1 billion naira school project remains short 9 years after completion. Well, you'll be wondering why it is short after 9 years. Well, stop wondering and get up that story on page 32. ACF Board of Trustees rejects Dahautu's suspension. It's a major one on page 33. 2027, door closes on aspirants intending defectors. Well, get more of that on page 6. Let's see if we can take more of the leading stories still on the front page of the Daily Trust. I lost 3 children to Niger airstrike, says injured father. Well, it's a sad one on page 5. Well, our condolence goes to the father. Police officer 9 residents killed in Plateau State. What is happening? Well, you can get more of that on page 32. Kidnappers using women to move rifles, ammunition in Kwara State. That very story is on page 33. Fubara stormed out of APC screening, shuns journalist. Well, it's an interesting one on page 10. Well, the picture of the day is more of a supporter of the lead story, talking about allocation triple hardship widens across the state. That's much you can take on the Daily Trust this morning.
Vanguard will be the last paper for us to look at. On the Vanguard this morning, the leading story reads, 2027 presidency, Jonathan's declaration spark stir. Riders to follow. 9 northern groups jostle to buy nomination form for ex-president. Yeah. He must have weighed his options, says Afenifere. Stay away from today's dirty politics. Middlebelt Forum advises Jonathan. Jonathan return may overheat the polity, according to Christian Association of Nigeria. I wonder why. Is he a bishop? And I don't know. It will be catastrophic misadventure if Jonathan runs, says Okore. Well, anyway, it will not be more of a problem if you read it up on page 5 and you get all the juicy gist. Let's see if we take some other leading stories. Still on the front page of the Vanguard. First hold company seeks stakeholders approval on 1 trillion naira capital base in bold balance sheet fortification. It's on page 40. Still making the rounds on other papers still. Let's see if we take some other leading stories still on the front page of the Vanguard this morning. Breweries defy economic hardship, record sharp rise in revenue. Yes, now, after disappointment, men go to drink. That's why. Page 11 has more of the story. Petrol-on energy ramps up duals inland production by 2,800 barrels per day. And you can get that on page 37. Hijet A1 prize. Aircraft pilot engineers worry over flight safety and job. It's also a screamer on page 9. And let's see if we just take the picture of the day. Okay, before we do so, I'd love to go to Mr. and Mrs. What are they cooking up this very lovely morning? Now, according Mrs. Always, why should I believe you? Men are serial liars. And Mr. said, I said I am broke, but you did not believe me. Okay, I have 50 million naira in my account. Do you believe me now? I feel she'll believe the money. But anyway, let's leave that and go to the picture of the day. And is that of no other person but the chief executive officer of a Chinese company with that of a Nigerian hybrid motors Nigerian during the signing of a strategic partner agreement in Shanghai to establish electric vehicles manufacturing facility in Lagos and Abuja. Hooray! That means very soon I might buy an electric car. Okay, just pray. Anyway, that's the much you can take from the Vanguard and all the papers this lovely morning. I will always implore you that if you find any truly enjoyable